Ready to talk about monsters?
Like Lady Gaga fans?
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate, oh yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name's Mike Royer.
And this week, we're getting ready for the fight of the century between King Kong and Godzilla.
Fight of the century or fight of the streaming services? Ooh.
There's no fight between that.
Throwing jabs.
Yeah, it's really not a jab at anybody else. We're getting even more time to die with some delay news.
I think I saw some people on Twitter not realizing that that joke has been being made for like over a year now. So they just see the delay and they're just like, I guess there was plenty of time to die. It's like, no, you're late to this pun. You're late to this party.
Get to it the first time it was delayed, okay? Now we have even more time to die. You know, in fact, we have time to live at this point. We're going to break down some new Spider-Man and Batman rumors, Mike. I know you like to sink your teeth into those.
I love rumors.
And more.
I love rumors, and I love sitting on the couch and watching TV. I don't remember if
Are you doing that right now?
No,
okay.
I'm sitting in front of my computer right now. That's what I'm doing. But I think last week I said I was watching The Americans, and we're still plowing through that. Still playing Ghost of Tsushima or Tushima. I don't know how the hell to pronounce it. We were trying to talk about it on the top of the show, and I don't know how to pronounce this.
Sushi.
But I'm having a good time. But we have some crossover in our Quaranstream this week, so that'll be fun.
We do. I actually tried to sit down and watch some stuff this week that I hadn't got to yet. I was like, there's no need to stay up late and play video games. I can actually just lay in bed and watch some movies. And I hit Monday with 2 movies back to back in bed, Mike.
Whoa, slow down there, buddy.
Yeah, I know. I was like, well, it's only, this movie's not very long. I can start a second one. But I'm going to start off with one I started Monday that we've talked about. It's been almost a year since it's been out. Sonic the Hedgehog.
2020's. Was it 2020's number one movie? Did it end up being number one? I don't quite remember.
It was number one streaming, I think, or video on demand. One of the two.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was in the theater. I think maybe Birds of Prey or maybe a Tenant at the late end of the year pulled that off. But yeah, Sonic was up there for a while because it was like the last movie before they shut down. And if you remember, we followed this movie for quite a bit because people were very upset by Sonic's design early on in this, right? And they said, we hear you. We're going to go back and redo it. And I'm going to say this is not a horrible movie, Mike. I expected it to be very, kind of, I guess, pander to children, maybe. But I also realized children don't play Sonic the Hedgehog anymore, right? When's the last time a quality Sonic game came out for kids to play?
That's a good question. The Sonic video game fan base is absolutely insane, and I think they kind of love to hate this blue hedgehog for the most part. But I pulled it up. Sonic was number 2 domestically, beat out by Bad Boys for Life, and that was just because they got the early beginning of the year box office. But good for Sonic. It'll be interesting to see how that develops.
Yeah, well, there's a sequel coming already. We know that, right? And do you care about spoilers at all in this? Because I think the thing is, most people, you remember Sonic, right? And who was with Sonic the whole time, every time we played?
Well, I think I know a little bit. I haven't watched it yet, but I believe Tails makes an appearance.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was true, but I thought Knuckles might have been hinted at, or they showed him at some point in time.
No, not at all.
Remember.
No, there's no Knuckles. I think that they have said Knuckles will be in the sequel. For sure, because Knuckles is also the echidna who stole people's hearts and minds with his sassy attitude from the
I just have a really bad idea that Knuckles is going to be kind of the like the ethnic addition to the movie. You know how like Michael Bay did a really bad job of trying to bring representation to Autobots, and he just gave them a bunch of like urban slang. Like I just have a bad idea, a bad thought that they're going to do that with Knuckles.
Whoever did Sonic cares about the character, and actually it's pretty entertaining in some points. I don't feel they're going to go very offensive on this. I think until you watch it, I think you can probably set that aside a little bit, because I think they'll do good with Knuckles. But I feel Knuckles and Sonic are going to fight for a bit, and then they're going to be friends. And I feel like that's something else we're going to talk about later in the show between some other people. But
I have no idea what the canon or how Sonic lore kind of has developed over the years. But wasn't Knuckles introduced as an antagonist at some point in time? I don't know if that was in the 2D games or if maybe that was in one of the 3D games.
Shadow the Hedgehog was the villain more than Knuckles. I think Knuckles was just imagine like a Winter Soldier version of, if Sonic is Cap, Knuckles is more like a Winter Soldier version.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember when Sonic and Knuckles were kids and they went off to the war front. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Exactly, Mike. But it's interesting. I had a good time. I didn't go with high expectations, but I came out being like, this is really fun. Is it James Marsden? We know him from Cyclops, we know him from Westworld. Really sort of shows that the human aspect to this little blue CGI guy. And again, Jim Carrey just totally chewing scenery as Dr. Robotnik throughout this whole thing. So I think it's if you got some free time, I don't even know if it's on a streaming service, Mike. I'm gonna have to pull up our Just Watch and take a look here, because you haven't seen it anywhere, have you yet?
Well, I know it's on a private media server that's been shared with me from somebody that hosts a superhero podcast. Hint, hint, it's you, Chris.
Oh, it's me. Yeah, Just Watch is having some issues because it's not loading the icon for what it's. No, it's DirecTV has it, so no, it's not on any streaming service unless you pay for it. So that's really.
You can
weird.
always rent it. You can watch for like $5 probably.
It's only rentable right now, according to this, through Fandango now, not anywhere else, which is weird. Why not Apple or iTunes? Either way, I think it's a good time. I think if you get a chance, you'll enjoy it. It's something you can put on the background, don't have to watch heavily. The other thing is, not last night, I think 2 nights ago, I was able to introduce my wife for the first time to the Predator franchise with the first Predator.
Okay.
And you may be asking, Chris, what the hell brought you to the Predator franchise?
Oh, let me guess. I want to say it was some Fortnite news.
It is Fortnite, yeah. So Fortnite this week, they if you have the Battle Pass, you can get the Predator skin for free. And my wife was like, I've never seen the Predator. None of them. I'm like, well, I have the first one on a private hosted media server, hosted by one of the podcast co-hosts of a superhero podcast. It's me. So we watched that, and I always forget how long that movie takes to get going, right? But this is an era of where, like, you don't get to see the villain. The alien is a mystery, right, the whole time. I mean, if you know the Predator, he's got invisibility. He's got a heat vision. He's taking people out left and right. But it's like, again, Mike, my wife was like, hey, that's the scene where the two guys do the high five together, right? Or the hand clap, and they try to outmuscle each other. She's like, I know that one. I'm like, yep, that's where this came from. It's the host of this. And then, Arnold yelling, get to the chopper as well. So I think it's the Predator's a fun little journey to go to. If you haven't watched it in a while, it does still hold up, except for the language. I will tell you, they are not very PC in this movie at all.
You know what? I want to use this moment as a transition. So I think we should save this overlap for the end of the Quaranstream here real quick, because since you introduced your wife to the Predator for the first time, my wife introduced me to a movie for the first time, and I had a very similar experience that your wife did with Predator. Was The Sound of Music.
Oh yeah.
It was a movie that I had never grown up with, and we had made a deal with I would watch The Sound of Music, and then she would watch something that I wanted to watch, and I was like, oh, I get all of these pop culture references I've been watching in movies and TV shows for years and years now, because they all came from The Sound of Music. So that movie is intense because it's 3 hours long, so you really got to settle in for it. It even has like the intermission in the middle of it. But I do think that's pretty funny. We have an extra bit of crossover in the Quaranstream on top of that. First timers.
And did you catch that on HBO Max?
No, Sound of Music is on Disney Plus, actually.
Oh, is it? Okay. I knew it was on some streaming service. I'm like, I've seen it recently going through the list of films.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I believe it's a Fox property, so it seems pretty much at home to me on Disney Plus. But it does make me wonder how much Nazi content can you find on Disney Plus. It was
Indiana Jones there yet?
It was very funny watching the head of the Von Trapp family. Not funny, it was satisfying to watch him rip the Nazi flag. And I thought to my head, I was like, oh, I bet that would make a really good GIF. And then, of course, like that GIF is everywhere. And I was like, oh, yeah, I think I've seen it before, too. So I'm so late to the party with The Sound of Music. And your wife is a little less late to The Predator because Predator is 80s. Sound of Music is like 20 years before that.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, this movie's just, again, one lady per film in this movie, right? Like of the Predator, and everyone else is all these super hyper masculine men with guns and a specific set of abilities for a military thing.
Yeah, the machismo's off the charts in the Predator.
Yeah, pretty much. So, I mean, it's a good time. I think I was able to play that, and then I was like, you know what, they're gonna add to Fortnite next, the Terminator, and what did they add? The T-800 into Fortnite the next day. I was like, that's awesome. Those Schwarzenegger films from the 90s, but then, Mike, I remembered I hadn't got to watch Kong Skull Island yet.
Kong Skull Island. Wait, you had never seen it?
I had not seen it at all until this week.
Oh.
Because I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, I don't think I did. I don't think I watched it. I think I just maybe read a synopsis afterwards about everything.
I like how you went to a fugue state because we have it on tape. Last week when I was talking about Kong Skull Island, I think you told me that since I'm watching them in kind of in story chronological order, you told me that they get better as you watch them, which I will say I disagree with, and we'll get to that. But I was under the assumption that you had watched them, but I guess you hadn't.
I think I just read synopsis of this and reviews along the way while they were building this interconnected universe. And I go the other. I still stand on what I said last week. After watching it and making sure I watched it all the way through the end, till the end and everything, I think Kong Skull Island has better actors, but it's so goddamn predictable about the whole thing. I wish it wasn't as predictable as it was. You know what I'm saying? For me, because we've got this whole universe they're trying to set up later. But I did see Kong Skull Island this week, and you looks like you were able to finish it as well because you were halfway through when we talked last week, right? Kind of in and out of it.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I was finally able to finish it, and unbeknownst to me, we're going to be talking about it today, the Godzilla vs. Kong trailer. That was announced earlier this week that trailer was going to be dropping, and I started watching Kong before that. So luckily, I preemptively started watching this franchise, so it motivated me to finish all three of these films, Kong Skull Island, Godzilla 2014, and then Godzilla King of the Monsters, because we're going to be talking about this trailer on Sunday, and I should be able to bring some sort of intelligent conversation to it.
It's the Avengers version of these not Universal monsters, but whatever they are, whoever owns these, the
Titans monsters. I guess the Titan universe.
The Titans. What's the company that they this organization Monarch, the Monarchverse. There it is.
Yeah, first of all, I think the easiest thing to say after watching all of these is I'm not going to defend any of these movies. I don't think any of these movies are particularly good at all. And all of the human, I understand in a kaiju movie you have to have human elements to it because you have to kind of ground and have the audience connect to somebody. Because if you're just watching monsters fight, say you take a movie, dial it back to prehistoric times. If you're just watching a bunch of dinosaurs fight, it's entertaining for a little while, but there's no stakes, if the T-Rex kills the Stegosaurus, who cares? That's just nature, right? You might as well be watching a nature documentary. So unfortunately, all of the human parts in all of these movies are just atrocious. They're boring.
They're tacked on. Does it feel like they're tacked on after the fact? Doesn't it?
All of the humans are so dumb. They make the worst decisions. There's all of these cheesy, ham-fisted kind of plot mechanisms of just there's a machine that we can use to talk to them. Oh, we have to track them. This is just me speaking generally because I feel like all of these movies are exactly the same because I watched them all in a row and they all hit the exact same beats. They're all trying to track down the monster. They're trying to find out how to kill it. They always try to shoot it. The movies have to go out of their way to show you how strong these monsters are, right? So they have to show the monsters destroying everything the humans throw at them, like bullets, machine guns, rocket launchers, anti-aircraft rockets, nuclear weapons. In one movie, there's even this thing they call an oxygen bomb, which basically just knocks Godzilla out. It doesn't even really hurt him. He just recharges himself. So it's just kind of they show you humans can do literally nothing, which means they can't be proactive at all, right? In Godzilla King of the Monsters, they riff off of one of the lines that say like, "Oh, we going to let them fight?" And then a coach from Friday Night Lights says, "No, we're going to join the fight." But then they don't do anything. Like, what are you going to do? Like, you can only shoot like so many rockets at what is it? What's the triple-headed Ghidorah? Yeah, like these monsters don't care what you do to them.
No.
So, yeah, no, I think it's Ghidorah. Okay. So this is just a way of saying that just like the humans are helpless, nothing they do really matters, and the only way you can kind of get them to matter is to contrive some sort of like weird technology that doesn't make any sense. So laying all of this out there, Kong Skull Island ended up probably being my favorite out of all of them, just because it was just a little bit more scaled back and slightly more believable, right? And also Kong has the advantage, if we're talking about, I'm sure we'll be talking about the versus aspect of Kong versus a big lizard, but Kong has the advantage of being kind of humanoid, if you will, right? He has arms and legs. He can pick up tools. He can do cooler stuff, whereas I feel like they've run the gamut with these just 2 movies of kind of what Godzilla can do, right? So I don't know. Like I tried to get into the mindset of Fast and Furious when I watch these movies of just like, kind of turn my brain off. But at least Fast and the Furious, I feel like has like a dumb car chase like at least every 15 minutes. And these movies are just like so much exposition. It just drives me crazy. So the deal was I would watch Sound of Music, and then my wife would have to sit through Godzilla King of the Monsters. And I felt like I came out are a lot better out of this equation than she did, unfortunately. So so I'm not super psyched now for Godzilla versus King Kong.
I think you're way wrong. I think this is what I agree with you. I think because of the humanoid nature of Kong, right, in his thing, he's got more personality, right? You see stuff, and I think even and we'll talk about this later in the trailer, you can see it in his eyes, and he's got emotions, and like you're like, I relate to this guy. Where Godzilla is more of a king of like a force of nature, if you will. And I don't think these are not cinematic brilliance. This is not going to change your life to watch these by any means. Way. But at the same time, I feel what they did with King of the Monsters was like they didn't actually like. I thought it was just going to be like a Ghidorah versus King or Godzilla kind of thing, right? Like they were like when they pitched it, like here's this big 3-headed monster, and here's Godzilla, but they actually went pretty far and reached into the Godzilla verse to pull out like Mothra, Rodan, a bunch of other new ones. There was like a
spider. There was like a woolly mammoth type thing.
Yeah, so they created a bunch of new ones for this as well. But like, I think in terms of like, they didn't just stick to like, hey, we're remaking old Godzilla movies, because I think that's like where they could have easily fallen down a trench of like, well, we're just gonna remake all these Godzilla movies from like the 60s up through today, or we're gonna try to do right by the Godzilla from '99 that nobody likes because they played Green Day music and it laid eggs in New York.
I would have to go back and watch that movie to have any sort of like real fair comparison to these Godzilla movies, but at least there was some funny campiness, right? It's just like, oh, how do we lure Godzilla to the side of the city? Let's get a bunch of fish, right? Like, it's just so dumb and kind of funny. But I think these big monster movies do a service of proving how good the first Pacific Rim movie is, right? Yeah. Because the humans are in the fight. They are versing the monsters. It's campy, but everything makes sense, It's just like, and if anything, also, like, nuclear bombs don't seem to do anything to these big monsters, so it would make me think, like, maybe build a big robot to fight Godzilla. That might be the best way to fight him. Go hand to hand.
Well, what the cool part about the end of King of the Monsters is I think they're going to go down the mecha Titan kind of thing, because that guy purchased Ghidorah's severed head, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we hit up the trailer too, because I've seen some speculation with some specific frames of that trailer.
Yeah, exactly. I went frame by frame. I was in the same mindset. I'm like, I saw the end of that last movie. I know where you are. But at the same time, this is just more of the turn your mind off. I really enjoy like what I can feel in King of the Monsters with the scale, of these things. I think the first Godzilla is probably one of my least favorites of the two, simply because the two, what is it though? Whatever they're called, the Mutos.
You're like,
what the hell are these things? Are these like the creatures from Oh, what's that? The movie where they did the handheld camera, the first person view.
Cloverfield.
Yeah, it looked like the Cloverfield creatures, right? Like I'm like, that's not really good design. But again, good. Again, we talked about it. We'll talk about more about. But the characters Wanda and Quicksilver from the Marvels are buried in that one because they were cast. I think they all have they get good actors. I don't know how this next one's gonna be, but
but also like. I think some of the actors are going to carry over into Godzilla versus Kong, but almost none of the humans do carry over, so you can't really follow a through line. Yeah. My hope is that, in Kong Skull Island, since John C. Reilly does briefly mention about how the people that live there don't seem to age, I'm hoping maybe some of that rubs off onto his character, so maybe he could show up in Kong Skull Island. Like, he looks exactly the same. I mean, technically he'd be a couple years older from the last time we saw him, but he looks pretty much exactly the same. He still has like these weird like opinions about the I don't know, the future or something like that. But I guess technically he'd be acclimated because it would have been like 50 plus years. But I would love to see John C. Reilly come back somehow. I mean, just go ahead and give it to me.
My guess is there'll probably be some old recorded government footage, like. We interviewed this guy who was stuck with Kong for years, and they're gonna play that back, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I think we haven't got a. When's the last time we got something like the Dark Universe never took off, right? Like, this is actually a combination of franchise, if you will, that actually is doing something for once, because the other ones never got anywhere. But I'm glad we both got to watch them, and we're all caught up because how often are we getting new content right now, Mike?
Yes, we are now
much.
Prepared. We are prepared. We will be able to intelligently talk about this trailer.
I'm just talk about this trailer. Don't add intelligent. We're not Godzilla stans, if you will. Gotta
Chris,
pull that off.
We got to stop all the presses because I got to know what the hell G.I. Joe Winterfest is.
I got to give a shout out.
You have it here in the show notes, and I got to know.
I got to give a shout to a listener of the show, Jason Ambrositis. I think he's been on an episode with me once. He and my friend Jeremy invited me to go to G.I. Joe Winterfest, which is a local convention based around the G.I. Joe community, Mike.
Wow.
And for the low price of $5, I got to walk into a hotel conference room, right? Low ceilings, very open, with a bunch of tables in a circular pattern, like a racetrack. And I've never seen, or did I know there was so much classic G.I. Joe content, figures and action figures, and like guns and clothing, and like this is Barbies but for men, if you will. And I hate to put it like that, but like it's just so much. Now, mind you, there was some other stuff. We went looking for Star Wars action figures, but like I've got to say, if you ever hear of again, when things are safer, we were wearing masks, we were very hand sanitizer. But if you ever get a chance when things are back open to go to like one of those small conventions in like hotel conference rooms that are like, again, $5, take a risk. You never know what you're gonna walk into. Because I was actually thinking about getting some Transformers myself, some old classic Transformers, and they had some in there, but the prices were here, there. Those, like, I feel if I bought it, I would never open it because I'm like, this is like priceless. But like, it's made me start to reconfigure Comic Cons to Toy Cons this year when things are a little safer to swap those back and forth, because I'm like, you never know what you're gonna walk into at one of these things. It's like some of them are very organized and very much like are running a business, and here's our wear, and some people are like, this is a peddler's mall little booth here, and you don't know what you're getting. Is this someone's old toy box? I don't know. We're gonna find out and dig through it a little bit. But I've got to give a shout to him for inviting me to do that, because even though I didn't get anything, and G.I. Joes are not my scene, it's still a fun time to do that kind of stuff. So I was thankful they invited me to this very small, isolated convention in a hotel room.
Sounds like a great time.
It was. All right, shifting back gears, back into HBO Max, because I believe isn't the Godzilla's on there in Kong Skull Island?
Well, this is another point of contention. Kong Skull Island and Godzilla King of the Monsters are, but Godzilla 2014 is nowhere to be streamed, which drives me kind of crazy, because, it would make sense, like, if it was on, like, Amazon Prime and you didn't have a Prime subscription, or if it was, like, on Netflix or something like that, and they're just waiting for, the contract to expire so they can have all these movies on one streaming service, I would get that. But as of right now, checking Just Watch, you can't stream it anywhere, which just makes me think, like, why is Legendary just leaving it to, like, flounder out there in the open market? I would think, as of right now, it would make so much more money if you, like, signed a streaming contract than just people, like, you know, just wanting to go in there and buy it. Because, like, if I was a super cheapskate and I didn't have the access to a certain private server that had the movie available for me to watch, I feel like I would just be like, I'm sure the plot in Godzilla 2014 isn't super important. You know, I'll just, you know, go watch the honest trailer for it. And then I'll go watch Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I know has at least one bigger monster in it. And once you get into it, you realize there's a bunch more monsters. So it was just annoying. I don't know why it's not streaming, but you're going to have to find your Godzilla 2014 somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't know why they do that kind of stuff. Like, get the whole, if you're going to stream one, get the whole franchise, right? Like, get them all, because I agree, like, you want to watch them there. But regardless, as an HBO Max subscriber, I forgot that today, on Sunday, by Monday you listen, it's too late, is the last day Wonder Woman 84 will be on HBO Max until it comes back around in its natural cycle. That all these deals for streaming these movies, including Kong Skull Island, we'll talk about later, or not Kong Skull Island, Godzilla vs. Kong, are only limited time offers on HBO Max before they revert to VOD and then come back in their natural cycle. So, I mean, does this mean Wonder Woman 84 will be on, like, I guess, iTunes Store tomorrow to buy? Or where's it going to go in this meantime?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it just really depends on Warner Brothers of how much subscriptions did the movie drive in this month, right? You know, I saw some people were writing some think pieces and some articles about streaming services and about how they're combating churn. This whole idea of, like, you know, how often do you subscribe to a streaming service? Do you just like delete it and then log back in, you know, once there's actually something to watch? And it just made me think of the strategic position that somebody like Amazon Prime is in, right? You know, like, whether we want to watch anything on there or not, we're going to have that Prime account, because us being in a very urban area, like Amazon Prime 2-day shipping is sometimes shorter. Sometimes it's same-day shipping for some of that stuff. So we're probably always going to have it. So yeah, it's like one thing that streaming service doesn't really have to worry about is churn. But yeah, I mean, HBO Max, I saw that they added, I think maybe like one or two movies that were HBO Max originals just recently. I don't remember what they were called, but I think they were kind of more like in the drama sense, nothing like big budget action. But I can't think of anything off the top of my head that's like super must see on HBO Max right now that's brand new. I could recommend a ton of things because their catalog's really, really great, but it seems like it's not going to be until Godzilla vs. Kong, right, till they get something really big again.
Right, and honestly, you know, I mean, that's fine, but I guess, you know, that when you think it's going to streaming, you're like, oh, it's going to streaming permanently, right? Like, that's the kind of mentality that's how we've been trained when someone says it's going to streaming, and that's not the case for any of these. So again, if you don't get it within the first 4 weeks, it's gone. And I can't believe it's been 4 weeks, one whole month since 84 came out, and we talked about it on Christmas Day, like on Christmas Day, right?
It hasn't aged well in my brain, Chris.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have fond memories when I think of scenes and parts from the film, so that's not a good feeling.
She was sleeping with some random man, dude. And imagine him as her boyfriend.
I keep seeing the same clip like shared over and over and over again, where she like swings in front of that Egyptian highway to save those children, and then there's a shot where they just left the dummy child in the movie. I guess they figured the scene would go by fast enough nobody would notice, but people noticed, and now it's like a GIF. So you just see Gal Gadot, or I'm probably a stunt woman more than likely, rolling around on the ground with like this very rigid, like almost like it looks like a child made of cardboard. It's just very bizarre.
I believe it wholeheartedly. I feel like that it was again, I've beat this in the ground, but like I really missed opportunity with this sequel. But apparently there are no plans for video on demand, Mike. So apparently it won't be on DVD or home release / purchase options until March at this rate. So I'm sad to hear they don't have a plan. I'd rather than be like, yeah, it's on here for a month, but like they're pushing people to go to the theaters to watch it. But you know, if it's safe in your region, feel free. But at the same time, you know, I think there's a lot more regions that are not safe, you don't need to go watch this in theaters. Well,
they're going to release the physical version and probably throw a couple deleted scenes on there to maybe appease the restore the Snyderverse people. You know, get some money out of them.
Yeah, watch it come back out when the Snyder cut does release. That's what they're gonna do. Bring it on back. WandaVision, Mike. You've had some issues with WandaVision. People are spoiling it on Twitter.
Oh, yeah. This is ridiculous. This is just Disney Plus absolutely needs to change when these shows drop. Because, like, if you're Netflix, I get it. You're releasing something on, like, Thursday night at midnight because you're releasing the entire show, right? Yeah. And usually this stuff isn't hotly anticipated. Usually it's a show that maybe nobody even knows about yet. Or at the very least, if it's the next season of Stranger Things, most people are going to settle into it over the weekend. And then they'll slowly start to dribble things onto the internet right over the weekend, right? But Disney is making appointment television, which I like. I like having appointment television. I had this amazing moment last week, mid last week, where I realized I get to watch a new Marvel thing on Friday. This is awesome. This is great. And then you wake up on Friday morning and like half of the internet is already writing headlines about it. And they're not being good about it. Like Pop Sugar, I think, is one of these things that always shows up in my trending timeline or something like that, where they specifically mentioned a thing that happens in the show. And we're only on episode 3, and nothing really super dense has happened. Nothing that would blow the MCU, blow it apart. But you spoiled the ending for me. So I opened up Twitter and I put WandaVision on mute for a couple more weeks until it's over. I can't handle it.
And that's that sucks. I agree. I mean, the problem is it's such a short show that people, I think, are okay watching it early in the morning as well, like before they go to work. Like, I gotta wake up extra 20 minutes to watch WandaVision before I leave, and I'm like, that's fine, but not everybody does that. So I agree with that. That's just horrible. But I was reading a lot of due to episode 3, the episode 4 is apparently going to do a major shift in the series where it's not really we're watching television anymore. The story's going to open up. They've set the stage, and now they're going to kind of go into the full thing with this. And I think it's time for it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. So last week I sent a request out there into the world of letting people know of are you coming across people that aren't digging the show? Because we were so positive on those first 2 episodes. And apparently what the sentiment is if you don't like the show, it's because it's boring and it's slow. We had a super fan, Jim, reach out to me, and he had a friend, or maybe it was a cousin, not exactly what it was, somebody that he's connected to, saying that they hated it. It was boring. They didn't like it. Then I actually had a close friend that said that they couldn't even make it through episode 2. It was just so boring. And I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, I just weirdly enjoy the show even for what it is. Even if they weren't doing this weird kind of meta break the wall and kind of, Wanda and Vision are getting all weird and trying to figure out what's going on with their world. I just think it works really well as a classic vintage TV show. I think Paul Bettany is so funny in these quirky scenarios. It just works so well for me. And then when it kind of breaks and it does these weird kind of very bizarre moments, it just, I don't know. I'm just really digging it. But yeah, after episode 3, I guess we'll keep spoilers light until, maybe something really big pops up that we got to talk about. But yeah, there is kind of there's a moment where we really break the mold, and we're actually starting to see moments that we kind of saw in the trailer where we're seeing the real world a little bit more. So it does make sense that sooner or later you got to break the mold, because you got to start telling the other half of the story soon. Yeah. And we can't just tack that on in episode 9,
Exactly. And that's the thing, the stage has been set, the mysteries have been laid. Now they're going to pull back the curtain a little bit at a time to give us the full answers before the end of the season. And I'm excited for this. I'm very, very excited. And then I found out, I had this written down wrong, but Megan McDonnell, who's writing Captain Marvel 2, wrote this episode as well. So it looks like Marvel's pulling all their talent in together for all these shows and stuff. They're keeping their good talent on board. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, they have at the challenge of trying to make a sports analogy of something I know nothing about. It seems like a baseball bullpen, right? Yeah. They just got a cast of talent that they pull out, depending on who's pitching and where they're at right now.
It's funny you mention that, because Marvel called their writers and artist room in the comic book, and the Marvel bullpen. They literally used that for years when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were kind of running the show and pulling people in to do that stuff. So yeah, and then they see, if they see talent, maybe they wrote this episode Megan wrote this episode before she did Captain Marvel 2, right? Because we're still very early on in that, so maybe they saw talent in what she was doing. And also, this episode really had a lot more of Teyonah Parris's Monica Rambeau in it than the previous two. So who's
it was funny. I think last week I said I was trying to keep the character of Monica Rambeau secret from my wife because I was like, oh, if it's a big reveal, I don't want to spoil it. But then she started saying like, oh, she looks really familiar. Like I feel like I've seen her before. And I was like, well, you haven't really seen her in the MCU. So when the episode was over, I was like, oh yeah, remember Captain Marvel? You remember how she had a friend and that friend had a daughter? And she was like, yeah, kind of. And I was like, well, that's her. She's all grown up now, but it's a totally different actress. You know, so
working for Sword.
It wasn't that big of a mind-blown moment, so I guess it wasn't really a spoiler that I thought it would be.
No, it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, WandaVision moving along. Avoid spoilers if you can. Again, 6-7 more weeks, whatever it is. Very, very excited to see this unfold a little bit. On the other side of that, right afterwards, we get Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which will, they've said that a new Captain America will in fact exist by the end of the show. So they're confirming that the Falcon didn't take over Captain America's mantle when he got the shield. He just took the shield and was like, I have the shield, but I'm not Captain America. Like
the decision has not been made yet. They have their final 3 candidates, and they're putting them through their final interviews.
Exactly.
I think I saw this week as well that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier isn't going to pick up exactly when WandaVision ends. I think there's a 2-week gap.
I think there's one. I think it's 1 extra week, and then it's 2 weeks later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we won't exactly be able to roll right into Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but this is the show. Like, this is the show that everybody wants to see from the MCU, right? Like, I really appreciate, I truly appreciate everything WandaVision is doing, and I love it. But you're not going to get those weird things that just like, oh, it's boring. I don't understand what weird auteur thing that they're doing in this TV show. You're not going to get that with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You're going to get kind of what the MCU has been delivering you for the last decade, I believe, in this show. I think they're all good on their own merit, but I think kind of the whole hype around the MCU TV shows will kind of change a little bit when March rolls around.
I disagree because everyone I've talked to, not a single person has said Falcon and Winter Soldier. Everyone has said Loki. Hands down, I think Loki is going to be the one that everyone's looking forward to, because I think the character has much he's been around since 2010 or no 2011 with the first Thor movie, and he was the main villain in the Avengers. I think that's the one people are going to look for. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier, you're going to get the other side of the audience. People like, this is too political. This is too much politics for me. This is the West Wing of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So,
well, I think Loki's going to have the advantage of having a very, very primed audience, right? Because Loki, is that summer or is that fall
it's May.
For Loki?
It's literally the next one after Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah. So they'll be. Everyone will be totally primed for that show. Yeah. Either way, I like to use the term pig and shit, but whenever I use it, my wife is always like, "No, pigs are nice. They're clean. They don't like actually roll around and shit." But I feel like a pig and shit right now because I'm just so excited we get to watch all these shows. But going back to the news of a new Captain America will exist by the end of the show. I guess you wonder is it Falcon? Is it Winter Soldier? Or is it a U.S. agent? We don't exactly know what type of role that character is going to play in the show. But, if our two budding buddies here, kind of get to him and maybe convince him how to really be Cap and what his legacy is, maybe he can take over the mantle. I don't know, because I just really like Bucky and I keep forgetting the Falcon's name. What's his name?
Sam Wilson.
Sam, that's right. I keep I like them as they are. I almost don't want to see them go into like a new kind of costume or mantle. Like, just give me more of that awesome stuff.
I could see Falcon doing it more because it's not much of a stretch of what he was already doing. Mm-hmm. But I don't think Bucky would ever fit in that at all. With his little like what Sam will say in his little robot mind, his little brainwash mind. I don't think Bucky would ever fit into that. I think he doesn't. I don't know if he wants to do the good that he has to do, but Sam's always kind of been the it wouldn't be a stretch for him as much as Bucky.
Yeah. At the end of the day. Also, I like the idea of adding to the MCU because of putting U.S. Agent into a form of Captain America, you've added a hero to the roster instead of just kind of like palette swapping them, if you will, into a new costume. So yeah, I like the idea of addition by addition, not addition by subtraction.
I could totally see them pulling out the rug from and giving it to somebody else, like another fourth person we don't know yet that they introduced in the show.
That would be fun too. But also, I love Wyatt Russell, the guy who's playing a U.S. agent. So I think he could be a really good villain, too. Like, if he just ends up being a big a-hole who loves being in the suit and doesn't respect the legacy of Cap at all, that could be fun as well. And maybe he has no redemption and we just love hating him. That would be fun. That would be fun, too.
I honestly, and I hate to say this, I see him as the Captain America analogy of the Abomination in the Incredible Hulk film.
Oh, okay.
Where they were like, hey, look, Mr. Abomination guy, I can't think of the character's name off the top of my head, but it's like you're a great soldier, you're great at doing this stuff, we're gonna enhance your power. And then he's like, well, now I have power, I want more fucking power, like this is what I want, now I'm gonna be a jerk and become the Abomination. So I could see them like literally doing the same thing, like, hey, we're gonna give you a smaller version of the super soldier serum, and now he's got power and he's going to his head too, kind of thing. But he's not turning into a big creature by the end of it, or is he? I don't know. Could be. Andor has some disappointing news yet again here. Alan Tudyk said he will not be part of the first season of the show. So is the bad news we don't get K2SO, or the bad news is there's multiple seasons?
That's the only thing I was looking forward to in this show.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing particularly in Rogue One really made me upset or made me mad, right? It was like a fun story. It had like a nice ending where they had the balls to literally kill everybody. And it was just supposed to be a Star Wars story. This was back in the day when these were just supposed to be one-shot movies that just bought Disney time until they put out the next mainline Star Wars installment, right? So now cranking the clock back and telling more stories about Cassian Andor, I don't have a lot of interest in the character, and I liked K2SO. He was the most fun part, and I genuinely liked the droid design. So there could be a cool moment in the last episode where he finally meets the robot and they become best friends or whatever, and then maybe Alan Tudyk actually is in the very last episode for 2 lines, but I'm not too hyped.
The only thing I can see with this is, again, if they somehow tie it into Rebels somehow. Because it takes place in the same time frame, right? Maybe he's working with this younger version of Ahsoka, or the Hera Syndulla kind of character. Maybe they could tie it in there somehow, but that's the only way I could see this being a redemption show, and being able to get Dave Filoni in charge of this a little bit, because God bless that guy for doing what he does with Star Wars. But other than that, I'm like, that's like a disappointment. That's like a blow, man. You're like, oh, really? That he's not even in the first season? Where's it go? Yeah.
Yeah, I keep getting these promoted social media ads for a new show that Alan Tudyk is in on Sci-Fi. I don't remember what the title is off the top of my head, but he's supposed to be playing an alien who's pretending to be a human who's pretending to be a doctor, and it looks like it's supposed to be a comedy, and it looks like it might be funny. I haven't seen any trailers for it, so I might have to scratch my Alan Tudyk itch with this Sci-Fi show, but I don't have Sci-Fi, so I'll probably have to wait for the season to wrap up, and then I think usually Netflix ends up buying these Sci-Fi shows, so maybe that's where it'll end up going. So I'll keep an eye out for that in, I don't know, 8 months.
Well, Alan Tudyk's everywhere. I don't know if he's still in Doom Patrol, but he's in the first season of Doom Patrol. I know you didn't watch, so you could probably go get your...
Yeah, that's true.
The Tudyk verse, remember? He's in everything. He brings it all together, so... Except the first season of Andor. He's not doing that.
He must be really nice, because that's usually how you get cast in a lot of stuff, is usually people just like working with you.
He put in the work early on, He got through Firefly in that movie, and then he was Steve the Pirate in Dodgeball, so he put in that early work.
Yeah.
A little bit of win here for me, Mike. The Muppets, all 5 seasons are coming to Disney Plus soon, which is great, because the first 3 seasons are pretty readily available everywhere, digital and video, stuff like that. But seasons 4 and 5 never really came to digital or home release. You had to get bootlegs to find these.
Oh, really?
It's not like they were hiding; they just never made the full sets, and I don't know why. I mean, but whatever. But to be able to, again, adding, it's new to Disney Plus. but it's not new content. I think this is great. I'm going to be excited to kind of go visit that. And maybe, hopefully, this spurs them into action to maybe bring either like the Muppets show back to Disney Plus, or maybe another movie for Disney Plus. I don't know.
Yeah, that was one thing that I kind of realized when I went back and I watched those two. Well, technically we watched Muppet: A Christmas Carol in December, and then we watched the more modern, newer Muppet movies just recently. Yeah. But I didn't really grow up with Muppets. I don't know if it just we didn't have the channel that they were on, or if something else was airing when the Muppets was usually air. So I don't have a lot of nostalgia for the Muppets, but I really enjoy them. And rewatching those three movies, I start to realize that the Muppets are really good for meta humor. I mean, this was they were way ahead of their times before Phil Lord and Chris Miller were doing it with Legos, right? So I just feel like the Muppets are just so good at leaning into current tropes or Hollywood pop culture. Yeah. So it just seems like there should be a Muppet movie just on the docket every 4 or 5 years. Just keep making them. Don't stop. There's no reason to stop.
Well, the whole point of all the original Muppet movies up through Muppets from Space were they were essentially Muppet retellings of classic stories or tropes you already know, right? Like Muppet Christmas Carol is A Christmas Carol, but taken from the Muppets. Muppet Treasure Island's the pirate movies. The Great Muppet Caper is the heist movies of the 70s. So if they could pick a genre to skewer for a little bit, and that's I think where the Muppets and the Muppets not the Muppets Return, that's what they call it in the song, Most Wanted kind of fail is they're trying to be original and they don't succeed because the Muppets exist better, like you said, when they're parodying tropes or they're skewering your ideas of what a film should be along the way, and that's where they could literally take anything. What is it that just what's the properties that just went into public domain recently?
I don't know. I was just thinking of this earlier. I was talking to my wife, and I was thinking of Peter Pan, the peanut butter product, and I was just like, does Disney own the character of Peter Pan, or is that something that's in the public domain, and that's why they slapped it on peanut butter? I'm not 100% sure, but they could do a Muppet Peter Pan story.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they've made some kind of off-kilter ones. I think there was a Cinderella one, or the Muppets Wizard of Oz kind of thing. But there's plenty of stuff in the domain they could go skewer and bring people in because. And if you haven't had a chance to go watch Muppet Treasure Island lately, I'd recommend going back to that one. Tim Curry as the villains. Oh. Just chef's kiss.
The play Peter Pan is still in copyright in the U.S. until 2023, and in Spain until 2017. The copyright has expired everywhere else. So, apart from the play in the U.S. and Spain, it is considered the public domain. So, I guess if you want to sell peanut butter, Peter Pan is a good way to go. I was just thinking in my head, I was like, oh, is there a big payday coming for Peter Pan peanut butter someday? As soon as that IP goes public domain, they're like, yes, finally, we don't have to pay this royalty anymore. Let's innovate. Let's make all this new peanut butter product that we've never been able to make.
So I figured out it was The Great Gatsby hit public domain this year.
That would be perfect.
Yeah, so that would be a great way to go and take that kind of story and tell it with the Muppet characters a little bit. And make it a little more lighthearted than it is. Let's jump into this Spider-Man rumor, Mike. This is eating at me. I don't believe it's real. This is really weird. But the rumor is they're filming not one, but 2 Spider-Man movies back-to-back right now, and they've only announced one of them.
Wow.
Which would imply, again, I wrote this note myself, these are large casting announcements, right, with everything? All the original Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, all these people coming back, all these actors that were in these roles coming back, and, if you want to use them for more than a couple seconds, you're going to have a long-ass movie. So are these casting things we're filming as one movie, we'll split it into 2 later, or we know we're actively filming 2? I don't know. Do you think they would do that, or are we just getting our hopes up here?
I mean, it seems like a tight needle to thread, right? Especially during COVID, where you would think you would only want these productions to be going as long as they needed to. Don't stack another one on top of it. But also at the same time is I would imagine all of these decisions around these two movies, if they are being filmed back to back, would have been right around that time where Tom Holland was calling these executives on the phone, crying his eyes out, saying, I want to keep playing Spider-Man. Please don't break up with Disney. I want to keep doing this. So, yeah, it just makes me think, how would you even schedule all this when you're having like this nightmare of trying to figure out your joint custody, right?
Or they figured it out, and they're like, hey, let's do another. And while we got everyone, we can just pull all our resources into 2 movies rather than trying to schedule filming 2 across 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not out of the question to film 2 movies back to back. I mean, that's becoming par for the course with franchises nowadays. I think you could almost say Marvel, the MCU in general, is always filming something. There's always something back to back. I would imagine there's not a single day off for the security guards down there in Atlanta, Georgia on that compound. There's always somebody there doing something, right? There's no time to shut down. There's always something going. So, but since this is a Sony property, but also it's underneath the helm of Feige. Yeah, I don't know. This is exciting, though, because that means if this is true, I know Tom Holland is still on board, but it means we get a little bit more of him. Yeah, I don't know. And would that mean all of these casting announcements and rumors we've heard from all of these actors, like, we've been hearing, like, let's say like Doc Ock, for example, right?
Yeah.
Is he actually going to be in this one, or is he going to be in the 4th one, right? I don't know.
Well, exactly. I mean, it could be one of those things like maybe one is, the multiverse, and one's like maybe he's trapped in another multiverse trying to get out. I don't know. Maybe do they leave it on a cliffhanger? What's going on? Because technically it's Sony's property, but Marvel's making them and putting them in their universe. I don't know. I'd love to think so, but again, from the sources I've talked to, and that was a year ago maybe at this point, Mike. They only had 1 movie at that point in time from the sources I talked to. So, could things have changed during the pandemic?
Yeah, also, like another way around, this could be an issue where, they're really behind on their cinematic universe, right? We've lost an entire year where ground really could have been laid for these movies. So they're just like, well, if we want another Spider-Man movie to come out on time with Morbius 2 or Kraven the Hunter, we got to start working on the 4th one now. That could be a possibility.
Yeah. There's absolutely no telling nor any truth behind this rumor, but I saw it and I'm like, we got to talk about it a little bit. I like to think we don't have to wait far between Spider-Man movies, but what I want from Spider-Man more than anything is, like we've talked about this, him in the city, right? Like swinging in the city, living on his own. We need Peter Parker working, not necessarily for the Daily Bugle, but doing his own job kind of thing. Because again, I think that him being a photographer of the Daily Bugle doesn't fit with the era we're in right now. And, for the Spider-Man video game, he works as a lab assistant, right, throughout that. So I think there's opportunity to give him a new role. I'd love to see that. So Spider-Man, maybe 3, maybe 4, who knows? This one's a little more substantiated. I've actually been watching the Batman the Animated Series on HBO Max. Mike, they've added it all on there. The rumor is they're creating a sequel to the animated series for HBO Max.
I mean, this makes a whole lot of sense. This is so much more believable nowadays than it was even just a few years ago, because even on HBO Max right now, they're making new like Looney Tunes animated content, which is, from a much older property than Batman the Animated Series. Obviously, everybody loves this classic series, so it makes a lot of sense. And then also there's those kind of, I think, less substantiated rumors over at Disney Plus that they may or may not be making more X-Men the Animated Series.
Yeah, I think that's more of a wishing well kind of thing, because I think the old producers like, yeah, we'd love to make it. But like, with Warner Brothers, they are literally doing an Animaniacs sequel 20 years later, or, more than 20 years later, right? So like, they're not opposed to revisiting these old properties from the 90s and continuing them. And, when we sat in on that Batman Beyond panel, which is technically, I guess, the sequel, right, to the animated series, the people involved, the showrunner was like, yeah, I'd love to do more of this. Like, these are characters he created and loved, and we got a lot of good stuff out of there. Now, would you like to see them more aptly bridge the animated series to Beyond, or like, do you want it to pick up right where the animated series leaves off?
I mean, that would be amazing. I mean, Batman the Animated Series did a great job of making it feel mature, but while they were airing at like a kid-friendly time slot. I would love that, since obviously the fan base is old, right? This is beloved by a much older audience now. I would love them to go a little bit more mature with it. You don't need to go super adult like some of the Warner Brothers animated superhero stuff where there's like literally blood and people are getting decapitated and stuff like that. You don't need to go that far, but I would love for them to be okay with telling more mature stories of like, oh, Batman is solving a crime and it happens to be outside of like a strip club or a liquor store or something, right? You couldn't do that on kids television. So that would be really, really cool. And that would be even more amazing if there was like a long arc that they could tell. I mean, because I love sequential storytelling, right?
Yeah.
I love a theme that I can follow through it, and that seems to be what people want content-wise now. So yeah, give us everything we loved about Batman the Animated Series, and then modernize kind of the storytelling aspect around it, and that would be great. And if there was like an end road where like, we could start to see like maybe a younger toddler Terry McGinnis in it at some point in time, that would be super rad. I'd love that.
A lot of the villains in Batman Beyond were offshoots or remnants of the villains from the animated series, and we could see maybe the last bits of some of these villains before they became their Beyond versions.
What I would love to see is how do they square the aesthetic of what is the aesthetic of Gotham in Batman the Animated Series? It has it's
like a noir. It's kind of like a 40s and 50s kind of style.
But I was trying to think of the name for the architecture of like those big rounded like fenders on cars and stuff like that. I don't know why I can't think of it off the top of my head. But how do you square that with the super futuristic world of Batman Beyond? Mm-hmm. That would be fun. Like what if the big story plotline is there's like this tech CEO villain in Gotham that's like starting to buy up buildings and retrofit them and build them and totally change the architecture of the city, and that's slowly happening in the background. There's so many fun, cool things that you can do. But I mean, we saw Kevin Conroy at that panel at Comic-Con just a few years ago. He's getting older. I'm not saying he's about to drop dead. Like he seems pretty healthy. He's been doing tons of voice acting his whole career. But yeah, if you still have Kevin Conroy around,
do it.
Get him in the booth. Get him in the booth. Have him be Batman. He's great at Batman.
I think this is rather than again create another Batman animated show, right? From the ground, because you can do it at any point in time and even run it in parallel with this. Grab those actors while they're willing to do this. Is that Will Wheaton the voice of no, it's not Will Wheaton. What's his name? He's from
Mark Hamill?
No. I'm thinking of the Batman Terry McGinnis. He's the guy from Boy Meets World. Oh. But yeah,
I can't think of his name, but I can picture his hair. I can picture that '90s haircut.
Yeah, exactly. So I think grab these voice actors while they're willing to do it, while they're still doing panels. They're enthusiastic, right? They're not burnt out from it anymore. So I'd love to see this. I think this would be really, really fun. So all power to you. Shifting gears, this is what you guys came for. This is what we came here for.
The main event, if you will, Chris.
Yes, yeah. I watched the UFC fight last night, Mike. I'm in the zone. In one corner, coming in at 60 years old, Godzilla. The other corner, coming in at like almost 100 years old, King Kong. Two titans fighting each other out in Godzilla versus Kong on HBO Max this March. We got our first trailer today. They've been teasing it all week. We didn't know what they were going to do. How were they going to do it? And it looks to combine some older elements of Kong, the King Kong stories, with a more reckless, kind of brutal Godzilla, if you will, from what I saw here.
Yeah, that was a big question, right? Like, how do you get Kong to the city? We've seen in the classic versions of the character, he gets chained up on a boat, and then he puts in front of a stage, and then he climbs the skyscraper, holds the woman in his arm, blah, blah, blah. So we seem to be going with a similar scenario of he's chained up on a boat. I'm very confused with the scale of these two characters. I was dabbling looking for scale charts of Godzilla and King Kong, but these were all made before the trailer came out. So we finally got a size comparison, and it looks like they shrunk Godzilla. So I don't know exactly what's going on here. I could be proven wrong very easily. I'll listen to any argument. I'll look at any graph that anybody wants to show me, but they're standing both on top of like an aircraft carrier. But it's just like, I totally understand Godzilla. I mean, King Kong could do that, but Godzilla is like the size of a skyscraper. Like, he should be like easily like destroying that. Like, I don't know what the scale is supposed to be. Did he shrink, when he went nuclear and like, melted Ghidorah in the last Godzilla movie? Did he just get really sleepy and when he took a nap, he shrunk? I don't know what's happening.
So Godzilla from 2014, he's like 350 feet tall. So King Kong has grown. You heard that in Kong Skull Island, right? that he's still growing.
Yeah, that makes a lot. It's so much easier for me to imagine King Kong growing because in the Kong movie, they said that he was, he hadn't reached full size. His like older siblings or parents were much bigger and they all died out.
Right. So I don't know how big's one of those ships. What kind of ship was it again?
I don't know. I'm not a military man.
So I don't either. I just kind of pulled up how big he is, and it says he's 350 feet tall. 100 meters. He's 1 football field tall. Does that seem about right?
Is?
No, Godzilla. Well, I guess at this point, both of them, but yes. Godzilla in 2014 was 1 football field tall.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to figure it out, but that's that. Besides the fact it was cool.
Yeah,
watching King Kong punch Godzilla.
But that's how they opened the trailer. Like they were like, "Are they gonna fight?" And Godzilla's like, or Kong's like, "I want to punch you in the goddamn face!" Like literally, and they didn't pull back before he hit him either. They actually showed the hit. So I applaud them for that, like not being like, this is what it might look like. Again, we're just gonna give you the teaser, and then the song was very energetic.
It was weird. It was like some sort of really, I don't know what rap music it was, but it sounded like it was straight from the early 2000s. I'm sure somebody could show me the track and it was released in 2020 or whatever, but it was very different energy from this movie. Like I was imagining, like, you remember back when we saw the first Godzilla trailer and we saw those helo drops and they had like the red flares behind their legs. It was this big wide shot and you could kind of see Godzilla and the lightning in the background, and this one's just like monkey punches lizard, rap music in the background.
Well, I think that fits with the aesthetic. Again, if you having just watched a UFC fight, that's the music that goes with like fighting. I think that's where they're pulling that from. But I was interested to see in this trailer, Godzilla or Godzilla seems to be the villain. I didn't expect that, to be completely honest, after watching the other two. But again, at the same time, he was never helping people. He was just fighting bigger monsters.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fully prepared to like roll my eyes at whatever dumb reason Godzilla's a bad guy now.
Yeah.
Is it like, oh, he's hearing some sort of weird sonar and it's messing with his brain, so now he's bad now? Or somebody, or the bad British bearded man, or the guy who was in Game of Thrones in the last movie. Oh, he gave him some sort of poison, and now he's going crazy. And it's just like, it's going to be something stupid. But the only thing that I've seen pitched so far in like the last, I think 6 hours or 12 hours or whatever that this trailer's come out, that maybe it's actually Mecha Godzilla and it has like they put a skin over him so he looks real.
So I think that's right out. I think the more I think what my theory is here, Mike, and jot it down, time coded.
Okay.
Is that the Ghidorah head? There was a Mecha Ghidorah in the previous thing, that this Charles Dance, the Game of Thrones guy, has taken Ghidorah and he's purposely taunting these two. Like he's trying to figure out how to control these creatures, because that's what the goal of his organization, right? And King of Monsters was to control these, and then he soon found out he couldn't.
His goal was more to just let the world destroy itself.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. I suppose that could still be his goal. Like, if I can just get this monkey and lizard to fight each other, I can get this destruction going again.
Because they're technically quote unquote Titans, and the Titans all respond to one king, right? Like that's king of the, like they've called Godzilla king of the monsters, but they haven't called him King Kong yet. I think this is gonna settle that name. Do you think they'll kill Godzilla or Kong by the end of this? I feel like they're gonna fight each other, and then I think, again, based on the trailer, there's gonna be a Mecha Ghidorah rather than a Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah, I think it's naive for anyone to think that this is actually like a matchup and there's going to be one winner at the end of it. Like, did no one see like Freddy vs. Jason or any of these other verse movies? It's
Batman versus Superman, for cried out.
It's like, they're going to bring in a third threat and they're going to team up together and they're going to fight it. Now, if they'll both be alive at the end of the movie, that's another question, because I was watching the Honest trailer for King of the Monsters last night after I finished watching the movie, just because I was like, I don't think I ever watched it because I was saving it until I saw the movie, and it was just like, that movie didn't make like any money. Like nobody saw it. I don't even know if international audiences really went in droves like they hoped. So it seems like the only reason we're getting Godzilla versus King Kong is because it was on the slate and they already started putting money into it. So they're like, all right, let's go. Let's see what's going to happen with it. So I don't expect more movies after this unless it just does amazing for HBO Max. Like they see more subscriber numbers than they'd ever thought they'd ever see out of this little movie. And then maybe we would get more of it, but it seems like this might be the last in the franchise. So I expect either they both die and then the human characters just cry and thank them for their sacrifice and we can move on as humanity, or they both live and they both just decide to go live on an island, or, you know, Godzilla lives under the ocean. It's like, hey, you don't bother me anymore, I won't bother you anymore.
Well, knowing that this is not an HBO property, we'll see what Legendary does. That's the question, because Legendary owns the American rights to this. But like at the end of the King of the Monsters, there's obviously maybe half a dozen other creatures. How if these two die, how are they going to kill the other ones? Like, how do they kill all the Titans, if you will?
Well, they'll do what they've done in all of these movies. In the opening credits, we'll just see snippets of TV broadcasts and newspaper clippings where it says like, "Oh, this Titan died today this way, and this Titan died today that way." They have to hide exposition in so many different ways in these movies. But I think ultimately, out of this whole franchise, to me, nothing's ever been worth the price of admission. But this is going to be on HBO Max, something that I'm already paying for, so there is no price to admission. I don't have to pay anything to watch this movie, so I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it, whatever.
Well,
I think it'll be fun.
Well, this begs the question of what you brought up earlier, because, again, I know you used to hate... You were not for scheduled television shows. You wanted your binge model, right? We used to talk about that. The churn that current streaming services go through, right, like every month... Do you think people would cancel HBO Max now, then pick it back up in March for this? Because we're going to keep it. Obviously, you and me, we're going to keep it. Right? We see the value, long-term value here. And I think it's one of the best values on the market. But do you think, in terms of churn, that this would bring people in for the price of, what, $12?
I guess it depends. I guess it depends on, you know, how long is this for people? Because there's technically like a month gap, you know, in between Godzilla vs. King Kong and, you know, Wonder Woman, if you will, you know, if you're really doing the benchmark of these big movies, right? And that's, you know, I think there's a lot of lazy people that wouldn't go to the trouble of canceling just to save like $15. They're like, no, I don't want to cancel and sign back up. You know, I'll just pay for another month of it and then I'll watch Godzilla vs. King Kong. I don't know what the next slotted movie is after Godzilla and Kong. But I mean, I'll be there for it because I'm already paying for it.
Yeah, well, exactly. And there's more on there that, you know, that we see the value. I mean, I know you're paying just to keep the Snyder cut coming for you.
Oh God, yeah, I forgot about that thing.
But yeah, I think this trailer, I mean, it proves there is absolutely, this is not cinematic history. This is a movie that you could easily watch at home versus the theater and get a good experience. You know, about the same experience. And honestly, I think it's this Legendary Pictures Monsterverse, I think there's more life to it in maybe newer creatures rather than trying to carry out Godzilla and King Kong stuff. But I don't know what that looks like in the long run. Do you think it's gonna be like Baby Godzilla? You remember those movies?
Oh God, take it, make it an animated property. I mean, they could go the route of Jurassic World and get like a Netflix animated series.
Camp Cretaceous.
Yeah, and I think we got to see something mecha. I mean, if this franchise is really going out on this movie, give us something mecha related. The first couple frames where you see some people running into the subway, some people are speculating that could be Mecha Godzilla. I went frame by frame, and it's hard to tell because you don't often see that upward shot of directly on Godzilla's jaw. So you're just like, is that just his normal square jaw, or is that like a mecha jaw?
It's red. I don't know if you caught that or not.
Yeah, I caught the red, but in Godzilla King of the Monsters, he glows a lot through those scales. So that's something that he's been shown doing. So I'm not convinced either way yet.
So again, I've seen a lot of parodies of this. It's like where Kong tells Godzilla to save Mothra, and he's like, how do you know that name? Because it's the Batman v Superman thing. But like, I think, you know, they wasted their Mothra shot, if you will, in King of the Monsters. And if it's red, I really think it could be... A Mecha Godzilla doesn't make sense. How do you build something that big?
Oh, I get it. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense at all. Like, I know this isn't really a movie grounded in reality. We're talking about titans that live at the center of the earth.
A hollow Earth theory, Mike. If you
how do you build a big robot in time? Because it's like they don't have quite of the tone of Pacific Rim has. You know, that movie makes sense building giant monsters. Yeah. So it's not going to make any sense, but it's not going to make any sense either way.
Right.
Like, they're always trying to nuke these monsters, and they literally say these monsters eat nuclear energy. Like, well, let's shoot nukes at them. Everyone's dumb in this movie, so
I think again, I'm gonna lean into hopefully they continue the story from King of the Monsters and put the Ghidorah in there. Like maybe they reanimated one of its head on a body that looks like maybe Godzilla. Then,
yeah, maybe that could be a possibility. I mean, there's going to be a lot. I know there's a lot of hardcore Godzilla heads out there that would be like, no, Godzilla's the best. He's got to win. He's so cool. But from my perspective, Godzilla isn't super fun to watch on screen. Every once in a while, he'll do something cool, but he's got really no movable arms. You know, once he like gets his fire breath out there, all he can really do is like chomp on somebody and wiggle them around. Like Godzilla's gonna be fun to watch because he's got prehensile stuff that he can grab. Like there's that shot in the trailer where I don't know what the hell he's holding, but he's like blocking the blast. He's got
a big axe or something. You ever played that game Primal Rage in the 2000s?
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Where it was like dinosaurs versus each other with weapons. I'm like, this is what this feels like. I feel like they're gonna have to team up against this big, huge robot titan or something like that. And
please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so I can just disrespect your Godzilla every week until this movie comes out.
This is gonna be entertaining. I think, at least for me. Like, again, turn it off. I don't have to worry about anything coming. We're not here to worry about what TV show is gonna be on HBO Max yet to continue the stories of Godzilla versus Kong, but I'm looking forward to some fun later this year. New content, Mike. We don't get that very often right now.
Yes.
Speaking of that, we're going to shift gears here. The rumors Black Widow is expected to get delayed again, and
yeah, I mean, Disney does not want this out on video on demand.
They don't. Yeah, they've not swapped their deals out yet. They're not doing anything good. I mean, was it Rey and the Last Dragon is on the premiere access in March, right? And they moved. We're gonna talk about. They moved a bunch of other movies, but not this one. And God, that's bold to hold it till May. But God, give us something, man. The TV shows are fine, but give us the movie. I don't think it's gonna really break our. I guess this would break the internet, but also for lack of a better term, but also like it's not gonna change the MCU. I think as much as people.
No, it just seems like it's gonna be like a really nice send off. Like. I hope everything's as good as Logan, right? Because Logan's a great movie. I don't think it's going to quite hit that same tone because Logan was more of in the vein of a Western. But like, I imagine this is more as a send off for Scarlett Johansson in the MCU. So I'm not, exactly. I'm not expecting some big, big reveal for the MCU.
It's going to be, I believe, a couple small, pinpoint changes, like small changes, like moving pawns around a chessboard for the MCU, but nothing like checkmate. Like this is your next 5 years right here in Black Widow.
Yeah, exactly.
So I get it. There's a lot of money to be made in a Marvel movie, but like just give us this one. There's also rumor that Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner filmed a cameo for this, and I'm pretty sure it's the Budapest scene stuff. Like I think we've talked about that.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, he'd love to do that kind of stuff. I'm sure he's looking for some work to do before Hawkeye became a series. So give it to him. Now, one of my least favorite sections, delays for days. Mike,
delays for days.
Again, we talked about this earlier. There's plenty of time to die because No Time to Die has been pushed back for like the fourth time to October of this year. MGM, whoever it is, Eon, they're really holding on to this movie. Like they really think the last Daniel Craig movie, the guy looks like a potato in a suit, right? Like he's gonna make a lot of money. I don't know if it's going to at this point, so that's fine. Morbius, forgot about it. It was supposed to come out in March. They pushed it back to January of next year.
That's news to me. I thought the last time we talked about Morbius, they pushed it to October. Like they did a whole year
I'm sorry.
push.
It was October of this year, and then it was moved because No Time to Die took its slot on the Sony thing, so Morbius got pushed back.
I would take the very, very, very easy jab at Morbius right now to say like, oh, it's coming out in January. That's not a good slot, but months don't mean anything anymore with COVID. It's going to take a little while before we even see if January actually ends up being a dumping ground again.
The summer could suck for all we know at this point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think they just picked an open day because everything is literally very fluid right now. They're like, what do we got? We got January, move it. On that note, Sony also moved Uncharted way back to February of next year as well. That movie will never happen, Mike. No, I'm kidding. We keep talking about that. It keeps had directors moved all over the place, actors.
Hey, we've had photographs from the set. It's happening.
It is, and I believe it'll happen next year. It'll be good for it. There might be another game by the time this comes out. They keep delaying it. Disney moved the Kingsman back from, I believe, this spring to August to make room for better theater going.
I mean, maybe August possibly might be safe territory. Yeah. We'll see.
Well, we'll see how it goes. Bob's Burgers, the movie, removed indefinitely. They don't even know when they're going to put this out. So I forgot that's even coming out, but I was like, oh yeah, we've not even seen a trailer.
Yeah, you have a lot more avenues with like an animated property like that. Yeah. You know, I could easily see that being a streaming and never coming to theaters. Not saying that's indicative of the quality of it, but you know, people aren't as hyped for the Bob's Burgers movie as they are, you know, the next James Bond movie.
Well, exactly. And that's a very niche audience, right? You're not taking the family to see Bob's Burgers, the movie, I'm pretty sure. But it would be a great addition to Hulu if they need to get Hulu subscribers, because like the whole show's on there.
Yep.
Lastly, sad shout out for Ghostbusters people. Ghostbusters Afterlife pushed back to November from March, which is again, I think this is like the second move for it. And what we're going to talk about Ghostbusters Afterlife, a couple things, believe it or not. First and foremost, there's this first look at the Ghost Muncher. Apparently,
God, it's so fat.
He was like in a blink and miss it scene in the trailer, but he this little dude made an appearance on MasterChef Junior Spain when they were doing Ghostbusters episode.
Hell?
And
wow, I guess this is okay. Yeah, there was like a brief shot where they're like, "Oh, is that Slimer?" But I think it was like in a very brief, like pan zip.
He was. I think he was in the car or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So this little dude looks like a water bear, one of those little creatures with the.
Yeah, a little tardigrade. Yeah.
But he looks
like creepy as hell.
He's gonna be eating some food. So there's your muncher from our leak from MasterChef Junior Spain, but also snacks. Our favorite thing.
Yeah.
Mike was graciously bestowed upon me that there will be 3 flavors of Ecto Cooler.
Oh, Ecto Cooler, baby. If you're a long-time listener, you know exactly how we feel about Ecto Cooler.
Oh, my gosh.
The mandarin orange flavored juice drink that returned for that, what was the last
reboot?
Ghostbusters
It was 2016.
called?
It was just Ghostbusters.
Was it? It was just called Ghostbusters, and we reviewed the drink before we actually reviewed the movie.
We did. I mean, remember I bought cases of that. Like I had it at my wedding. Remember, I was like giving those out as like gifts.
Well, I was going to ask you. So the image I showed you, the link for these 3 new Ecto Cooler flavors, showed them all in cans. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. During the last Ghostbusters movies, we got the classic juice carton and cans, right?
Yes, I had. I had the cartons were harder to find. The cans were not. You could order the cans through Amazon Pantry. For that, but they are doing 3 flavors. They have original Ecto Cooler, Gooberry, and Big Apple. In pink, blue, and green cans.
Yeah, I don't know if those other 2 flavors had ever existed previously. I'm only familiar with the mainline Ecto Cooler orange flavored one, but I'm so down for those other ones.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna be all on top of this.
100%. I mean, I'm fucking thrilled. Like this is so exciting for me. I'm just loving it so much. And then also the new one of the other product things that leaked is the Twinkies, the Ghostbusters Twinkies. Do you remember in the first movie, the original, they talk about the Twinkie, like the goo's inside? That's the
I vaguely remember that. Yeah,
there was a reference, but now they have fruit flavored Twinkies that have blue goo in the middle of them. Looks like so. This is awesome. I think this is a really fun Twinkie to go. Well, I think we gotta get all this, Mike, together. Like this is.
Yeah, it looks like the cream on the inside is fruit flavored.
Yeah,
so I'm glad they're not just doing we complain about palette swaps in our superhero movies, but I also hate palette swaps in my snacks. Like, don't just give me a different color, throw in a different flavor. I mean, all you're doing is dropping like a little extract artificial flavoring in there. Like, just pick one, throw it in there. I don't care if it's good or bad. You know.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very excited for all these snacks coming out, Mike. Like, this has got me hyped for Ghostbusters. Like, I know there are people who love Ghostbusters. I'm sorry, listener of the show, Adam, but like the snacks are the best part of Ghostbusters for us right now. So, and we're living for it. Superman and Lois on the CW will have a 90-minute debut. It's 90-minute episode, like 2-hour episode, 90 minutes of footage on the CW when it comes out, based on this new trailer. And I don't know if you got to watch this trailer before we started, Mike. I forgot to tell you about it. But it's a very interesting thing, because I forgot Superman and Lois literally have 2 kids. And, they've been around for a little bit. And it looks like, he's got a villain to fight in this one. And I don't know who it is. And I'm a little intrigued by this show, more than I thought I would be. Simply because this doesn't look like a normal Superman show, right? Like, this isn't your main Earth Superman This is somebody else with a different life.
Yeah. So I know. Recently, I was talking about kind of like this CW universe, and I was really curious what the future of it is going to be. And our next section, maybe we'll have a little bit more insight into maybe the stats or analytics of the people that are watching this. But I'm really curious, if the fever is still there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do another call out to people out there. If you are still all in on this CW universe and you want to see more crossovers and you want to see them keep, plucking out new characters and making new shows, I really want to know, but I just feel like I don't see the excitement anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe they've just they've plateaued, but they're still, profitable, right? They're not triple Xing these viewers every week, but they're still having a pretty solid audience that they can sell ads to. That's fine, but I feel like just the hype isn't there anymore.
Right. Well, I think the newness is worn off, right? Like back when this was the only superhero TV shows, these were the hot shit. Well, now guess what? Netflix and Amazon are making comic book movies or TV shows, right? That are good. The Umbrella Academy, The Boys, Marvel's now dipping their toes in this. DC's even up their game with Doom Patrol and some of the other stuff they're putting on HBO Max now, like Titans. Where does this need to exist anymore to get that audience? And we'll talk about. I want to go ahead and jump into this. The crossover with Batwoman for Superman and Lois was canceled due to the pandemic. That's fine, but Batwoman, the newest season, despite the fact the CW app was the #1 app in the App Store right this week, this was the third least viewed episode of the series.
Ooh, that's pretty surprising too. I mean, because you would think like a big change, like a new character would kind of, maybe people would tune in just to see what the difference is, and maybe you would see a bigger drop off in episode 2. But I guess Ruby Rose, she was a big draw. Well, she was a star that drove people to I guess the first season.
Yeah, and I think that's it's interesting. I don't know, is it the change? Is it the actress? Is it the fact that we've gone so long without him and nobody just cares about Batwoman because you don't really get Batman in this kind of thing, Like what I don't know what the thing is, but the CW app still had some really good, #1 app in the App Store. What do you say? It was beating all the other free apps all week. You sent me the screenshot.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I think what it was is this goes to the heart of who watches the CW. Yeah, you do get nerds like us every once in a while tuning in, but I think it was because there was a show called All American came back, which I believe is about high school football, and I think Riverdale's also returning soon. So it's just there's a very specific demo that really, really loves the CW and those shows over there. So, I don't think they're necessarily there for the superhero stuff anymore.
It was actually Walker, the Walker Texas Ranger reboot that has the actor from Supernatural, Jared Padalecki, in it. That was the #1 show for the CW this week. And
I had no idea.
Yeah, so apparently it was breaking. It's the #1 show since 2018 on there, and I don't remember what 2018 was. So
wow,
this I guess Supernatural's over, right? So the actor Jared Padalecki's got a history with the CW. And obviously the rabid Walker Texas Ranger fan base, all going to CW. But they had a bunch of stuff this week, but it's sad that literally Batwoman performed so badly compared to the face of all these other shows that are not superhero related content on the CW. So
yeah, I checked out. I still cannot really intelligently talk about a lot of the DC HBO TV shows like Doom Patrol or Titans, but I did watch one episode of Titans a week or two ago, and it just kind of seemed like a CW 1.5 type of show. It just really felt like I was getting the same stuff that the Berlantiverse has been making for years and years now, just with a little bit more money, and you can say fuck Batman in it.
Well, it's still technically Berlanti making those, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm really, for me, I think I've just I don't want to say evolved past those shows because it just sounds really, douchey to say, but there's just more better stuff out there right now. We don't really need to settle down with 23 episodes a season for 5 seasons anymore.
Yeah, it's quality over quantity, I think, right now, and that's in terms of of the streaming, not streaming wars, but all the advent of streaming services. You want the quality over quantity, and I'll use a show I haven't watched yet, but Star Trek Discovery apparently is really awesome, and while we don't have CBS All Access, soon to be Paramount Plus, I've thought about getting a trial just to watch that show because I've heard so much good about it, and it's only like 10 episodes a season.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pay for a month of it to watch the Super Bowl. In 2 weeks. Yeah, shout out to people that keep up with football. Yeah. We're recording on the day of these championship games, so I hope your team hope your team did well.
Guess what? No movie trailers during the Super Bowl this year, Mike. So the hell with that. I don't know any. They usually announce them pretty early, but we'll see. I'm not expecting them to, no one has a release date. At most we might get a Shang-Chi trailer since that's in the summer, and maybe an Eternals trailer if we're lucky, but I'm not going to bank on those right now.
Yeah, it looks like the Super Bowl. I'm checking out my phone right now, real time, Sunday at 6 p.m. on the West Coast. It looks like it's going to be the Chiefs and the Bucks.
The Chiefs again.
Yeah, the Chiefs again. I don't know anything about football, but I'll be preparing my snacks.
We all know I'm a Bucks fan, but not because of any sports-related reasons. So that's what I'm going to go with. Anyway, lastly, though, speaking of streaming movies, Extraction, the Chris Hemsworth movie we saw this summer, right, from the Russo brothers, is apparently they're building an Extraction universe, if you will, and they're going to bring more characters from the world, spinning off into other media. Not just TV shows or movies, but like comic books, stories, stuff like that.
Okay.
But I think it's just like the unexpected, success of this movie. But literally in a summer where we're getting nothing, like I don't think it's a great movie. Like it's not the greatest thing, but it was new content in the moment, right? So
I mean, it just had some better than average action set pieces that we don't usually get, because wasn't this? I know it was produced by the Russos, but I think it was directed by an ex-stunt person, kind of like how the John Wick movies.
But it was written by one of the Russo brothers.
Oh, okay, it was.
And like they made a comic book, right? And then they turned it into this movie. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. Yeah, I don't really know what universe you have to pull off here, right? Because if you think of something like John Wick, where you have this unique lore of like these assassins and the underground and like these coins that they trade and stuff like that, we didn't get any of that in Extraction. This was a pretty straightforward movie of like military dude tries to save kid. It works. End of movie.
To bring it back to the beginning of the show, the team in Predator is hired. They're an extraction team, which is meant to do the same thing Chris Hemsworth team was doing, right? In this Predator universe before they ended up having to fight a Predator they weren't told about.
So are you trying to tell me about that by the third or fourth Extraction movie we might have aliens?
Oh,
is that what you're trying to tell me, Chris?
Would you be surprised?
I would be excited. That'd be
a
fun.
Nice blue beam light into the sky, opening up a portal to other universes, just like all the movies. This isn't like a universe I'm clamoring for. Again, I'd like to see a sequel, and it doesn't have to be the same thing again. Like we don't need Extraction 2, Electric Boogaloo, but like, I like Chris Hemsworth. I think he's a great action star. But like again, we talked about, it feels like a Call of Duty mission, the movie kind of thing. So
yeah,
I don't know what they do with this, but. If someone wants to pay him to make other stuff, let him. That's fine with me. Russo brothers are good guys. All right, Mike, that's our show for this week. We made it. We did it. A whole week's worth of news here. I didn't think we had much when I started making my notes this week. Someone asked me, what's the big news this week? I'm like, I don't know. That's a great question. But thankfully, we had that Godzilla versus Kong that really filled the middle of the episode here. The real meat of it. But if people want to know what you're up to, where can they find you at?
Oh, it's very easy. You just got to follow me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram and Twitter. I also made a TikTok account, so it's the same, Mike Royer Design. I only have one video up there. I don't know if I'm ever going to use it for myself, but you can follow me there if you want. So that's Mike Royer Design, and you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Valdan87, VALDAN87, or Twitter, Valdan, VALDAN. I've been telling Mike about this. I'm very hyped. I tell everyone about this who will sit and listen to me for a second. Is I'm working on arcade stuff, and I'm very, very excited because you know what that means. I can just work on it in my house and not have to go anywhere for days on end. So I'm very excited to build some arcade stuff. I showed Mike these light guns that work with new TVs, which I think you were hyped about because every time I ask you, what should I buy first? You're like, the guns. Get the light guns. Like,
yeah, because I'm just a child at heart. Yeah. I just want the toy gun.
Exactly, and plugged in. And guess how many quarters you'll have to spend to shoot more guns? None. That's the best.
Better
part.
Be none.
Yeah, exactly. You pay me your quarters. Pay them directly to me. I want one of those change belts, with the quarters that arcades used to.
Yeah.
Have. But anyway, people want to know more about the show, stuff we do. Where can they find us at?
Well, they can find it all at superheroslate.com. That's the best place to find all the avenues we host our show and to get our awesome show notes. So if you want to link to that King Kong vs. Godzilla trailer, or if you want to see the first look at Muncher, that really gross-looking ghost thing, on MasterChef Junior Spain. It's so weird. I love getting leaks from the weirdest parts of the world. So you can hit that up at superheroslate.com. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you love to listen to fine podcasts. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and you can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you, so please reach out. Tell us, are you still watching WandaVision? Are you more excited for Falcon and the Winter Soldier or Loki? Are you more of a Chris or are you more of a Mike? Who knows? Let us know. Are you also excited for Ecto Cooler like we are? Are we the only ones? Are we the only grown men that are craving for flavored sugar water? That might be the case. But if you want to be a super fan of the show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, make sure you're wearing your mask and social distancing and getting your vaccine. And if you already got it, please make sure you get your second round of the vaccine, because that's the most important part. So please do all you have to do to get the world back to normal so we can go back to the movie theaters, everybody, and you'll be a super fan. So do those things and you'll be a super fan.
Yes, that sounds good, and we will catch you guys next week.
All right, bye everybody.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.
No fucking clue what that is, so that'll be fun.
I know. I've been saving it.
Yep.
Saving it.